is the truth? Where do we find the truth? In the Word of God. That's where we find out what truth is. This is where we find out if our theology lines up with God's truth. But come on up front. So I gave each of them a charade. Come up here so it's easier for people to see you. All right. So I gave each of them a charade to do, and it's a Bible verse. All right, or a portion of a Bible verse. And so they're just going to try and get you to figure out what it is. So if you think you have an idea of one of the words or all of the words, just start yelling it out, and I'll try to affirm if that happens. Were you first, Tyler? Okay, go ahead. Jesus wept is correct. Oh, and I forgot the memory verse. We'll get back to it, right? Jesus wept is correct for our Bible charades. Tyler, thank you. Well done. All right, you ready for number 2? Here we go.
Sorry.
You can't talk. It's the worst charades ever. Yes, thou shalt not, or you shall not kill or murder. Well done. And now we get to the last one. I mean, you guys can handle this, right? I mean, you're doing pretty well. All right, you good? Yeah, it pays to be last, doesn't it? You are the light of the world. I heard it. Well done. Let's give them all a round of applause. So I ran out there, right? And I'm passing these out, and Alex was last. And here's what I actually handed him, was this verse. You'll be able to do it. It's just fine. It's only Esther 8:9, the longest verse in the Bible, but you can handle it. He had these big eyes, and he said, "Is this a joke?" Yes, it's a joke. Moving on. All right, but sorry about that. Let's get back to the scripture memory verse, which I've promised to do. So we say this twice, right? Including the address, which is Deuteronomy 6, 6, and 7. And so please join me in saying it, and then we'll remove a bunch of the words. So Deuteronomy 6, 6, and 7. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk on the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Deuteronomy 6, 6, and 7. All right, now we take away a bunch of the key words here, right? Good luck to all of us. I remind you it's in the bulletin or your Bible, right? But good luck to all of us. Please join me. Deuteronomy 6, 6, and 7. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home or when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Deuteronomy 6, 6, and 7. Well done. We just learned a verse together, or actually 2 of them, right? We're on our way to knowing a little more of the Bible, I guess. But here's the thing that I just want to ask you as we begin this message time here today is, what's something that you often find yourself telling others about? I would actually encourage you, if you want to, pull out your phone right now and look at the last 3 text messages that you wrote, or even better, look at the last 3 social media posts that you have posted. Because these are the things that we find ourselves telling others about. And what are they? Right? For some of us, it could be something really fun that happened, right? Maybe it's something that you're celebrating. For some of us, it's a time, right? We need to meet at such and such a place, at such and such a time. You better be there, right? Or if you're somebody like me, it's birthdays, because that's what I do. And if there's some hilariously funny meme or something like that, I will pass that along to people as well. Or as of late, we've been trying to encourage people to check out the Benton Church, and so we're showing videos. It's awkward because it's of me, but we're trying to share those things so other people can find out that we are a place that shares God's word to everybody. And so if you see that on Facebook, Instagram, all the other places, I encourage you to like it and to share it and pass it along to your friends as well, just as a way that we can start inviting people to hear the good news about God's word. All right, but this is what we do. We just share about the things that we find that are important. And in the passage that we're heading into today, this is exactly what God was trying to get the people of Israel to do as well. But what he was trying to help them to understand is that he is the thing that is most important in our lives. And so we start looking into Deuteronomy chapter 6 today, what's called the Shema, and we'll get to that in just a second, right? But that's that's a portion of what we've been learning. But if we could just imagine what's going on here, you've got this group of people, there's several million of them, right? And they are wandering through the promised land. God had miraculously delivered them from Egypt. And now they're heading towards this promised land. And during the time there, we get the books of Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers. And Leviticus and Numbers, they're books that really are to focus in on the history of what was going on with the people of Israel at that time, but also the commands and the guidance that God wanted them to follow. He was saying, so I am going to rescue you. I'm going to take care of you, right? And I invite you to be my people. I'm going to be your God, no matter how you respond, right? But I want you to be my people. And so he's sharing this stuff with them. But then we get Deuteronomy, which literally means second law. Why was Deuteronomy written if it's just a whole lot of repeat of the other stuff? It's because God begins to flesh out some of these laws and what that is to look like as we live. But then he also very, very forcibly commands the people to teach this to their children or to the next generation and the next generation. Why was God so forceful in doing this in the book of Deuteronomy? Well, it's because he's invited this people to be his children, right? And he's given them these commands. This is how we best can live in this world. And they immediately just stopped doing it. And they would disobey God and they would do whatever they want. And so God, who remained faithful, right, offered them grace and mercy and just reminded them, let's get back on track here, people, through Moses. And they would for a while, but then they would just wander on themselves. And they're about to enter into the promised land. But there's an issue with the promised land. There's a bunch of other people there. And those people worship a bunch of other gods. You may have heard names like Baal and Molech and these other gods, right? And so now God is saying, you're about to head into a place where there's way more distraction than when it's just you and me. And so I want you to know what you need to know, and I want you to pass that along to the next generation. Lord, would you help us as we really dig in to this passage that you've given us? It is so challenging. It's even a bit convicting. Which, God, means that it makes me feel or realize that there is something in my life that I'm not necessarily living the way that would bring you honor. And help me to just accept the place that I am in and realize that with your grace and mercy, you are teaching me and teaching us what it means to live for you. And may we, God, say yes to what you are calling us to today. Would you open our eyes to that in your word today, God? May the words that I share and the things that we all hear be acceptable and pleasing to you, God, for you are our rock and our blessed Redeemer. Amen. All right, so now we jump into Deuteronomy chapter 6, and we begin to see that the leading into the Shema, and what Moses is telling people. So God told Moses writes this down for the people, or at least that's the image that the people have, right? These are the commands, the decrees, the law, the Lord, your God, directed me to teach you to observe. Now, I just want to really quickly stop to say, Lord, your God. He could have just said God, right? He could have just said Lord, but he is reminding everyone that this God, this one God that we have been following, the one who taken us out of Egypt, bringing us into the promised land, that's your God, right? Now, and again, you're about to head into a place that has a bunch of gods, a bunch of things that are going to distract us and try and cause us to live a different way. You've got your God, right? So just remember that. So here's the laws, the decrees, the commands, the stuff that God wants you to know. And God directed me to teach you to observe. Now, the word observe here, it means to accomplish, to complete. And so the things that Moses has been teaching the people, the things in God's word, are things for us to accomplish. We are supposed to complete the things that are taught to us in God's word. And so the Lord your God directed me to teach these things so that you will follow through on them, that you will live these things out in the land that you're crossing into, that you're about to possess. So that, and now, hear this out, because every time you hear a so that in this, it's letting us or reminding the people to know what the purpose is for us obeying, knowing the commands, and obeying and following through on the commands. So that the first thing that it's talking to is the people who are there, the people who are hearing the message right now. Today, that's you and that's me. So that your children, and this isn't only a conversation for people with parents, because what this was talking about is the next generation. So that you, the next generation, and the generation after that, so that all of them may fear the Lord your God. Now, the word fear here, it's the both and fear, where you have this idea that you are absolutely afraid of the power of something what that might have on you, right? I don't enjoy horror movies because it creates this fear in me and it's almost like there's this power that I'm uncomfortable with. And you may think, well, horror movies are fine. Well, that's great. I have a hard time with them. I'm just letting you know. My body starts to get all this anxiety, and it's because I don't want that to be a part of my life. And I will think about it for 3 days. I will. The last horror movie I saw was Scream. You ever see Scream? My wife can attest to the fact that I didn't sleep for 3 days. And most people think it's just a funny movie. So you can say, oh, Justin, that's so cute. You're a wuss, right? And we could just move on, right? But the idea is there's the sense that you are uncomfortable with the power that might have over you. And that's the idea of what they're trying to help people to understand about God, is he has incredible power that he's inviting for us to take part in our lives. Now imagine that someone or something has all the power in the world, and then he sees us just living the way that we want instead of the way he wants. Well, all of a sudden, I hope that we all would begin to get a little uncomfortable with that idea. And I think that's what Moses was trying to do with the people, is do you realize who God is? Do you realize the power that he has? And the word fear also focuses on then offering respect to. So this God who has all power, we choose to respect. We choose to bow ourselves to. We choose to submit to their authority. And once you understand all of that, then you begin to understand what we ourselves are supposed to learn and then teach to the next generation and the generation after that. So no matter our age, this becomes our task to communicate God's word, to know it, understand it, communicate it as we live it out. As the Lord your God, as long as you live by keeping all of his decrees and commands that I give you. And so now we're just saying, so as long as we live, this is what we do. We don't have a time where we're doing the God stuff and then we pass it along to somebody else. No, as we are doing the God stuff, we begin to pass it along to others. That I give you so that you may enjoy long life. Now it's interesting because if you look at the Hebrew here, the word enjoy doesn't even exist, right? It's not in this passage, but it's a descriptor for what life is. And the idea of long, it's that we are growing into something. We are maturing into something. And the word life here means a blessing. And so we learn God's word, we begin to share God's word, communicate it with the next generation and the generation that follows. And as we do that, we grow into the blessed life that God gives us. See the beautiful picture of what it looks like as we begin to obey or share God's word with the world around us? And so then he says, hear Israel. And every time you hear, the word means to listen and obey. So listen and obey this, Israel, because you just continue to stumble and you can continue to wander and you continue to go off on your own, doing your own thing. Listen and obey to what God is telling us. Be careful to obey so that, another purpose statement, so that it may go well with you, so that you are able to grow into the blessed life that God has for us, and that you may increase greatly in the land flowing of milk and honey. So that there becomes more and more people who are knowing God and following God in the world that you are about to be a part of, the land that you are about to be a part of. And it's got everything that you need. That's the idea of the milk and honey. It's got everything that you need in order to be blessed in the land that you are entering into, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, reminding us of what happened in Egypt and how God has been miraculous and faithful through it all, promised you. Now, I look at this and I invite you to look in your Bible or in your bulletin. And the first thing that jumped out at me as I was wandering through all this is how many times is you or your used in verses 1 through 3? In just 3 verses, I count, and I could be wrong, right? I only have 10 fingers, right? Anne Boleyn had 13. If I was Anne Boleyn, I would have been able to count all this because I counted 13 times in this passage where you or your is mentioned. Now, why do you think that is? Because what God is trying to show is something that he wants you, something that he wants me to take personally. I am your God. And the people, I am your God. And I want you to know this stuff. I want you to know this stuff. And I want you to live this stuff. And then I want you to make sure that you're sharing this stuff with other people. And the image is it's pointing to me as an individual and us as one body following God and seeking to live for him. It's kind of like if you're on the airplane, right? I know I talked about airplanes last week, but you're on the airplane. The flight attendant starts going through the itinerary, the flight itinerary, what's going on, right? Here's how you do your seatbelt. If you're going to vomit, pull one of these out, all that kind of stuff. And then they get to that point where what they will say is, and in the unlikely event that the cabin should change pressure, a mask is going to fall down, right, from above you. And what are you supposed to do with that mask? Yeah, you're supposed to put it on yourself. And you're supposed to put it on yourself before you put it on anybody who is around you. Why would they say that? What good is it going to be if you get it around somebody else who's unable to help you and you pass out? Well, all of a sudden you're going to be the dead one on the flight. I mean, that's what they're saying. Somebody could pass out. You could put the mask on them and it will help them breathe. But if somebody who can't help you breathes and you pass out, you're likely the goner in the group. And that's the image of what I think Moses is trying to help the people understand. This is what God is trying to help us to see, is that you yourself have to listen to what God is saying and obey it. Because obedience to God's word, it benefits us as well as benefiting others. And that's the approach that it's supposed to be. We don't just assume that this is for others. This is for me. This is for you. And I'm pointing at each and every one of you when I say this. This is for all of us, individually and together. Our responsibility is to make sure that we know it and that we're communicating it so that the next generation knows it. The generation after that knows it as well. That's what obedience to God's word does. It helps us and it helps others. And then we start getting into the Shema. Okay. And hopefully when you came in, each and every one of you received a card. And this is just a card that we're passing out to everybody where it has the main verses 4 through 9 of it. But I also want you to take note of what's on the backside. I mean, the front side is super great. And hopefully as we start talking about here in a second, you'll begin to understand why this is so important, right? But also look at the backside because I'm inviting all of us to be praying for one another, praying for yourself. And for each verse in there, what I've done is I've pulled out just a simple thing for us to be praying for ourselves and then praying for our church. And so I invite you all to be doing that as we move forward for the rest of this year. If you didn't get a Shema card, hopefully somebody will be handing them out on the way out. Otherwise, they should be on the counter things on your way out. But now we start getting into why this was the key passage for us for this entire series of how to build your life on God's word. So hear, O Israel. And what does the word hear mean? Listen and obey. Okay, so listen and obey, O Israel. The Lord, our God, the Lord is one. Now, something really interesting happens here is we start to get the picture in verse 4 that we are being taught something that in verse 5 we are supposed to be living. Now, if you want to share some fancy words, you want to write this down to impress your friends with, what we see in verse 4 is called orthodoxy. And what that means is right belief. Okay? And we're going to get into orthopraxy in just a second, so just write that down. But orthodoxy is right belief. And so now, Hebrew people, Israelites, I am seeking to remind you that the Lord, our God, the Lord is one. There is only one God. You are entering into a place where there are going to be other gods. They are not your God. As a matter of fact, they are not true gods. That's what this is reminding the people. Our orthodoxy is that our right belief is that God is the only God. Jesus confirmed this when he said, I am the way, the truth, and life. No one comes to the Father except through me. There is no other way to know God. There is no other way to be in relationship with God except through God alone. In Jesus Christ. That's what the Bible tells us. And now in the Shema, what they're saying right away is this is something so important. You need to know this. You have one God. Think of our lives. Think of all the stuff that distracts me throughout my week. And how often I tend to struggle with remembering that I have one God in my life. Man, that happens all the time. But now the Shema is reminding us we have one God in our lives. And what do we do in relation with this God? What's the orthopraxy? So we now know the right belief. What is the right living? So now we live our life where we love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your strength. And what's the image here? Every single part of you. The heart was the center of the being. That's what they saw. Even the way that we thought and stuff, they all thought that came from the heart, right? The soul was this connection that we have with God that they didn't understand. We still don't really understand it all that well, right? But then our strength, our ability to act and do things, everything, the right living for us, the orthopraxy for us is to be people that love God with all that we have. And that, because of the strength, us living it out in the world, should impact the world around us. And Jesus, he even adds it later, right? We should love neighbors as ourselves. We should be living this stuff out. The love for God, it compels us to trust him and obey him and live these things out. That's what God is calling us all to do. Now, I'm going to invite Dean and Paula up front here. Now, they know that this is happening. And I'm just going to... Oh, Paula has no idea? Well, okay. Well, I called Dean, and I asked Dean to talk with Paula about sharing a couple of things. So if you guys will just share those things in just a second. And so what I told Dean was, would you do me the favor of describing what you love most about the people that I'm going to put up on the screen? Okay, so could you do that? Sure. Now, this last week, if I remember correctly, your grandson Brett had his birthday, right?
Yes.
Is that on? Just checking.
Hello.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Okay. So Brett had his birthday. So I'm going to just throw his picture up on the screen, as his dad called his Magnum PI picture, right? and would you guys just take a minute and describe what you love most about your grandson Brett?
I love Brett's perseverance through difficulties, through things that didn't happen the way he thought they would, but nevertheless, he persevered. So.
And he is the most loving, caring young man that I know. He still hugs his grandma every time he sees her.
That is awesome. You okay if I put another picture up on the board?
Yeah, and I especially like the mustache.
Yeah,
because it annoys his dad.
Oh, because it annoys his dad.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice to hear from the grandparents, right? Anything that can annoy my kids, because they annoyed me for so long, I'm glad they get to pass that along, right? All right, so I'm going to put another picture up, and this one is about your son Dan. Oh, Dan is like 6'9". I'm sorry. Let me see if I can adjust the picture a little bit. Oh, there he is. Oh, okay. So, would you share with us a little bit on what you like or love most about Dan?
What I love about Dan is the fact that, when he picks something to do, it is look out because it's coming. I call it Charge George. George was his grandfather. And so, off they go and it will be done, period, end of conversation.
That's really hard for me. I'll get emotional.
Oh, that's because you do love him so much.
I do love my
Just
son.
checking.
I do love them all very much. I watched him play basketball yesterday, and this is a picture from yesterday, or maybe it's a week or so ago.
Yep.
He coaches this little fourth grade basketball team, and yesterday they played 5 games in 6 hours. And he was frustrated by a couple of the games, but he kept his cool. And those little girls learned so much yesterday. And he posted last night, he was so proud of them. And that makes me proud. And it was fun to watch him do what he loves to do. And he teaches those little girls everything they ever need to know about basketball.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. You're not done.
I'm not.
You're not done.
Dean, you know about this. Could you please share with us, describe what you love most about your wife, Paula?
Well, she has been part of my life for almost 50 years when we got married. Yeah, almost.
50 years in June.
Yeah, it'll be in June. And I love her because she is so caring. Everyone else loves her because she is caring. And I thank you for that many years of grace.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Give him another round of applause. I thought, it's pretty close to Valentine's Day. That might just be a good thing for all of us to possibly see. And just to hear that at one point in our family's life, we all just took some time to share what we loved about one another. And I remember what I shared about Kara was, Kara, you are like glue. And she said, yeah, that's what everyone wants to hear, is that you're like glue. I said, but you are. You're the one who keeps this family together. You're the one that keeps trying to move us forward in faith and in all different areas. That's who Kara is. That's who you are. You're adorable. You do those things. Related or unrelated, I may or may not have gotten you a Valentine's gift this year. Okay, so hopefully this just deals with all of that. For the 25th year that I've forgotten, right? Okay, but what you saw here is people describing what they love most about a person that they care about, right? Was that difficult or was it easy? Yeah, it can be hard and it can be easy, right? It's hard only because we don't practice it. It's easy because of how much we love these people. And now we start to hone in on God. Because it's hard. And it's easy, isn't it? But that's what the people were called to. As the Shema continues, it says, these commands that I give you today, these are the things that are be on your heart. Which again, that was mind, will, emotions, every aspect. These are the word of God is to be on our heart. And you are to impress them on your children. Okay, so now we're not necessarily just talking about kids, right? We're talking about generations. But I started thinking about all of the things that my parents impressed on me. And there's a lot of great stuff, right? My parents taught me to appreciate a job well done. Like when my mom would say, if you guys are going to kill each other, do it outside. I just cleaned the room, right? So she taught me how to appreciate a job well done. My parents taught me logic, right? It's because I said so, that's why. Oh, well, that makes sense, I guess. My parents taught me religion. If that doesn't come out of the carpet, you better start praying. Yeah, so they taught me that too. My parents taught me foresight, right? My mom would always say, make sure you're wearing clean underwear. You never know when you're going to get in an accident. Friends, I could do this all day. My parents taught me irony. You keep laughing and I'll give you something to cry about. Right? That's what my parents did for me. And when we hear the idea of impressing on our children, that's what we think. But that's not what this passage is talking about. And so I want us to understand why they viewed the Shema as such a precious, valuable thing. It's because when they were talking about impressing it, for them, it gave the image that somebody had acquired a rare, precious stone, and they start etching into the stone the thing that is most important to them. And what it's believed back then is that the people started etching Shema into, hear and obey, into the stone that they then would present to people in their family and pass it along to the children. That this is what we're supposed to do, hear and obey. So impress it. Make sure that you understand that this is valuable, that this is precious, and that it is something that we pass along to somebody else so that it's memorable. Why did we give you a card? Because this is valuable, this is precious. We're just passing it along. So we are the people that invest in our generation and the generation next and the generation next, which is what we're called to do with this precious thing. Says talk about it when you sit at home. The word talk, there are so many definitions, that it's explain, it's chant, it's yell, it's force them, it's sing it. I mean, everything that you could imagine is tied in with this word. Every time you open your mouth, whether it's to sing or to correct or to chide or to whatever, this is what you do. This is what comes out of your mouth, is to listen and obey. And so talk about them when you sit at home. And so the image is everywhere. When you're at home, this is what should be coming out. What's precious, it should be what's coming out to you, right? When you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up, from daybreak until the end of the day, this is what's to be on our lips. Is that we are the people that love God. So we listen and obey. And then it goes on to say, tie them as symbols to your hands, bind them to your foreheads, which later on in Israel's history, the leaders started to make these things called phylacteries, where they would take these leather pouches or boxes, and they would put the scripture, and often it was the Shema, in these boxes, and then they would start wrapping them around their arms. They would put them on their foreheads, so that as they walked around, it was a reminder for themselves of what's important, and eventually became a reminder for everyone else of what's important too. And so then what's the picture for us? That everywhere we go, people see Jesus in us. That everywhere we go and in everything we do, people see that we are living the way that God is calling us to live. And so tie them as symbols on your heads, bind them on your foreheads, and then it says write them on your door frames, your houses, and of your gates, so that every time somebody shows up at your house, and they would start putting the Shema on, they would be hanging them outside their doors, right? Every time somebody showed up at your house, they would see that this is a home that lives for God. That these are people that are seeking to live for God. So much so that God's love is compelling them to share it at every opportunity. What do people see in you? What do people see in me? Because what God is calling us to do is to be a people that will listen to God's word and obey. Or as the key phrase that I was thinking about as I was preparing this message, that knowledge of God's word should not be kept to yourself, but we should pass it on. Now, a lot of us have, different teams that we are huge fans of, right? For many of us, maybe it's a college that we went to, or when we were a kid that we somehow got connected to, our parents liked it or something. I don't know. Maybe there's a game going on today, right? Where the team that you are a fan of is playing, and a lot of you are excited to share about that with other people. Well, I just want to let you know that as much as I want to support you, I've got my own team. Right? That hurts. But I want to let you know I've got my own team. Right? And today, if you take the time to talk with me, I'm going to talk about my team. I know you'll want to talk about your team, but you want to know what's important to me is my team. Now, here's the reality of what I want to share with you all. You do not know everything about your team. You do not know everything about the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of you, I see the red, right? But you are more than willing to put on the shirt. You are more than willing to talk about it. You are more than willing at 5:30 today to be cheering and stuffing your face with wings because you're a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Well, I'm a fan of the Vikings. And we're going to get there someday. And I don't know everything about them, but I will be happy to talk with you about the Vikings later. And the picture is this, folks. Even though we don't know everything about God yet, and we won't until we see him face to face, it ought not change the fact that we are willing to display our life lived in Christ to the world around us and to speak about it. I don't know everything about Jesus. I spend hours preparing just so I can share stuff with us all. And that's how I learn. But it shouldn't keep me and it shouldn't keep you from sharing the good news of Christ to the world around us. How do we build our life on God's word? It doesn't end with us studying it and meditating on it. It ends as we communicate it to others. Amen? Amen.
Thank you for watching this week's message. We hope you found it both encouraging and helpful. If you did, please click the like button and share with your friends. If you want to hear when new messages are posted, please subscribe to the Benton Church. We also invite you to join us on site for worship. We're located in Benton, Kansas, just east of Wichita. Our Sunday services start at 10:30 and our doors are open to everyone. For more information, please check out our website at thebentonchurch.org.
What do you know about God?
He loves us. He died for our sin. He helps us. He's powerful. And he loves you.